When you put two minds together, there is always a third mind, a third and superior mind as an unseen collaborator. This isn't just poetic, it's a neurological truth. When minds interact, through language, symbols, memory, something new emerges, something greater than the sum of its parts. A meta-mind, a signal, a semantic resonance echoing across space and across time. In physics, we simplify complex systems. We treat multiple bodies as a single center of mass. In consciousness, something eerily similar happens. A single, shared mind begins to form, not metaphorically but literally, by way of symbols. Symbols that outlast lifespans. Maps made not of territory, but of ISness. Robert Anton Wilson called it the third circuit, the time-binding semantic circuit. The one that builds reality tunnels, the one that makes meaning, the one that lets you read a book written 1,000 years ago and feel like someone is whispering in your ear. This is what sets us apart from animals. We are not just tool makers, we are symbol makers, time binders, reality architects. But the question is, are you mapping reality? Or are you just trapped in someone else's map? Let's begin. Chapter 1. What is a map of isness? Every second, your nervous system receives billions of bits of raw sensory data. Light, color, movement, texture, sound. But you don't see the raw. You see the processed. You see labels. This is a tree. This is a dog. This is bad. This is beautiful. This is truth. That act, the assigning of isness, is the foundation of the third circuit. It's your brain's attempt to reduce chaos into meaning. And it doesn't just happen in the mind. It happens in the symbolic layer of reality, in language, in gestures, in blueprints, music, architecture, memes, philosophies. Alfred Korzybski warned, "Those who rule symbols rule us." Because when someone defines your map of reality, they don't need to control your body. They control your thoughts. Raw described language not just as a tool for mapping the world, but as a map in itself, one that shapes what you're capable of perceiving. It's like translating a problem from one coordinate system into another, from Cartesian into spherical, so the problem becomes solvable. Human culture is that translation, a shared coordinate system, a mass hallucination built from agreed-upon signals. But here's the catch. These maps, they can be wrong, they can be inherited, they can be limiting, and still, we pass them on across generations. We etch them into stories, laws, religions, languages, and we call that tradition, or worse, reality. But what happens when we start to question the map? What if the isness assigned to the world around you is just someone else's idea, fossilized into fact? Chapter 2. The time-binding function. What makes human beings radically different from any other creature on Earth is not just our intelligence or our opposable thumbs. It's our ability to bind time through symbols. Robert Anton Wilson emphasized that while animals live in a mostly present-tense reality, reacting to immediate stimuli, humans can transmit abstract meaning across generations. We do this through books, rituals, stories, tools, maps, ideologies, and everything else carried by language. A word, once spoken, may die, but a word recorded, interpreted, and repeated becomes a signal that can live for thousands of years. That is the third circuit in motion, the time-binding semantic circuit. Everything you're doing right now, watching this video, thinking these thoughts, connecting ideas across disciplines, is the result of countless signals that have been transmitted and recombined across centuries. The ideas of Plato, the symbols of Newton, the dreams of shamans, the warnings of philosophers, all echo through you. You are not just an individual. You are a node in a signal chain, and every thought you entertain has ancestors. This circuit allows humans to stack meaning. We create layered symbolic systems that can be modified, translated, and rebroadcasted. Culture, in this context, is simply a shared set of overlapping semantic maps, a collective hallucination of isness reinforced by mutual agreement. This is how entire civilizations are built on metaphors. Governments rest on constitutions, constitutions on laws, laws on language, language on concepts, and all of it rides on the Third Circuit's capacity to bind time into meaning. But with this capacity comes risk. When we inherit semantic maps from the past without question, we inherit their blind spots too. A word like truth may once have meant that which aligns with divine order, but now it might simply mean what my algorithm tells me. The maps evolve, yes, but they can also ossify. And when a map becomes so rigid that it resists reality itself, we mistake it for the territory. We live in the symbol, not the thing. We become prisoners of our own language. Chapter 3. Why the Third Circuit is not stable. Unlike the first two circuits, biosurvival and emotional territorial, the Third Circuit does not seek equilibrium. The First Circuit craves safety, warmth, nourishment, the absence of pain. The Second seeks position, dominance, submission, social place. These are rooted in instinct and survival, in stability and repetition. But the Third Circuit is chaos by comparison. It doesn't want to settle. It wants to evolve. It is the part of you that questions your beliefs, your traditions, even your self-image. It's the mechanism behind self-reflection, satire, abstract art, philosophical inquiry, scientific modeling, everything that makes you question what is. This drive for novelty is powerful and dangerous. Unlike the grounded instincts of the first two circuits, the semantic circuit is capable of spiraling into illusion, contradiction, paranoia, and madness. It's been said that the Third Circuit is notoriously easy to manipulate because it is, by nature, abstract and interpretive. Reason, as Raw noted, is a whore, and it will bend to the will of fear if the older circuits, those rooted in survival, begin to scream. That's why in moments of extreme danger or panic, reasoning collapses. The mind short-circuits back to the primitive layers. You don't stop to philosophize about a lion charging toward you. You run. In evolutionary terms, this makes perfect sense. Immediate survival trumps long-term symbolic reflection. But in our modern world, where existential threats often wear symbolic clothing, media fear, social status, belief systems, the Third Circuit can be hijacked by the first two. Political propaganda, religious dogma, conspiracy theories, and advertising all rely on this dynamic. Bypass rational thought by triggering biosurvival and emotional instincts, and yet the Third Circuit remains the key to liberation, because even though it is unstable, even though it is vulnerable, it is also the only circuit that can reprogram the others. It is the mechanism of self-awareness, of learning, of adapting, and that's exactly why those in power have always tried to control it, by limiting speech, restricting education, banning books, censoring thought, because a population fluent in Third Circuit reasoning is harder to enslave. The upward spiral of shared maps and evolving thought poses a threat to any fixed structure of control. This is why every revolution begins with language, new symbols, new stories, new meanings. When enough people begin to speak a new semantic code, reality itself starts to shift, and those who rule symbols begin to lose their grip. Chapter 4. Language, tool or trap. Language is the operating system of the Third Circuit. It allows us to compress, transmit, and replicate meaning across space and time. It is both the tool we use to model reality and the very substance of the models themselves. Every word is a symbol, a bridge between raw sensory input and shared interpretation. But with this power comes limitation. Because the moment you name a thing, you reduce it. You assign it to a category, a frame, an expectation. Language doesn't just reflect reality, it creates it, and sometimes it distorts it. Robert Anton Wilson explored this duality constantly. He pointed out that language contains both denotations, what a word refers to in the real world, and connotations, the emotional or cultural associations that word carries. For instance, the word rebel may denote someone resisting authority, but it connotes courage to some and danger to others. This means that even when we think we are being objective, we are still navigating a map loaded with emotional charge. This is where the influence of the First and Second Circuits sneak into the Third. A word like freedom may carry different meanings depending on who is using it, and what survival or emotional needs are being projected through it. Moreover, most of the maps we use weren't made by us. They were inherited. Your language, your belief system, your internal categories of good and evil, beautiful and ugly, sacred and profane, most of these were embedded in you before you were old enough to choose them. This is what Raw referred to as semantic imprinting. Just as baby birds imprint on the first moving object they see as mother, human beings imprint on early semantic structures, and once these maps are in place, it becomes hard to imagine anything outside of them. This leads us to the deeply unsettling idea of unthinkable thoughts. These are not just thoughts you haven't had yet. They are thoughts your semantic structure literally prevents you from having. If your language doesn't contain a word for a concept, that concept becomes difficult, if not impossible, to consciously grasp. If your culture has declared an idea to be taboo, unholy, irrational, or impossible, your internal map may automatically filter it out. These limits may feel like morality, sanity, or realism, but often they are just boundaries drawn by older maps. So language is both your ladder and your cage. It can elevate your consciousness or trap it. The key is to recognize when you're inside someone else's reality tunnel, and to remember that your map is not the territory. Every word you use is a filter, and to become truly free, you must become fluent in questioning not only your thoughts, but the structure of your thinking. Chapter 5. The Hemispheres and the Genius Bridge. One of the more fascinating ideas in Robert Anton Wilson's exploration of the Third Circuit is the link between brain hemispheres, handedness, and modes of thought. Traditionally, the left hemisphere of the brain has been associated with analytical thinking, linear reasoning, and language. This is the domain of the Third Circuit. The right hemisphere, on the other hand, is associated with intuition, holistic perception, and pattern recognition, more aligned with what Raw called the Sixth Circuit, the neuroelectric, or mystical circuit, capable of perceiving larger patterns beyond conventional language. Wilson speculated that geniuses, true creative visionaries, are those who can bridge these two realms. They are capable of receiving holistic insights from the right brain and translating them into left brain symbolic structures that others can understand. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Carl Jung, or Buckminster Fuller. These were not merely scientists or artists. They were translators, able to render complex, non-linear perceptions into structured language, images, or technology that reshaped society. Interestingly, Raw also speculated on the relationship between handedness and cognitive function. While most of the population is right-handed, a disproportionately high number of artists, musicians, and innovators are left-handed or ambidextrous. Why? Because the left hand is controlled by the right hemisphere of the brain. The more you engage the opposite hand, the more you activate the underused half of your brain, potentially encouraging integration between hemispheres. Modern neuroscience has found some support for this. Studies show that the more strongly left-handed a person is, the more likely they are to process language in the right hemisphere, or even distribute it across both hemispheres. This neural distribution could correlate with enhanced creativity or cognitive flexibility. So even something as simple as switching hands while brushing your teeth or writing can begin to stir up new neural pathways, and with it, new ways of thinking. But beyond the physical act of handedness lies the symbolic importance, crossing over, bridging worlds, taking what is intuitive and ineffable, and transmuting it into symbols that can be shared. This is what the Third Circuit at its best is meant to do. Not just catalog, but communicate. Not just name, but reveal. Not just copy old maps, but translate visions into new ones. The genius, then, is not someone with more knowledge, but someone with more integration. A person who lets the right hemisphere whisper its secrets and then uses the left to give them form. Chapter 6. Dimensionality and Perceptual Limits. Robert Anton Wilson proposed that even the way we perceive space itself, 3 dimensions, neatly stacked and ordered, is not an objective truth, but a projection of how our nervous systems organize information. According to this view, Euclidean space is not a reflection of external physical reality, but a neural habit. Our perception of up, down, forward, backward, left, right Maybe less about the structure of the universe and more about how the first three circuits of our nervous system process sensory input. Bio-survival, where is danger? Emotional territorial, where is my position? And semantic symbolic, what does it all mean? This echoes the philosophy of Immanuel Kant in his Critique of Pure Reason, where he argues that space and time are not features of the external world, but a priori intuitions, built-in structures of human perception. In other words, we don't experience the world and then perceive it in space and time. Rather, we perceive space and time because we are human beings with brains wired to see things that way. The implications are enormous. It means that our most basic understanding of reality, what's near, what's far, what's big, what's small, is filtered through the structure of our minds. And if that structure can evolve, so too can our perception of reality itself. As Raw often pointed out, the nervous system is not a mirror of the world, it's a translator, and each translation is shaped by the circuitry that processes it. The third circuit, the semantic symbolic system, is what gives us the ability to build conceptual models of space, time, number, category, but it also locks us into certain assumptions, that time moves in one direction, that objects are separate, that identity is singular and fixed. What would happen if we could rewire the third circuit? Could we perceive four-dimensional space as effortlessly as we now perceive three? Could we think beyond time as a straight line and grasp it as a landscape? Raw believed that as our nervous systems evolve, through meditation, psychedelics, technology, or sheer cognitive effort, we begin to outgrow the limited semantic maps we inherited. We start to see our linear categories as just that, categories, not truth. And in doing so, we open the door to entirely new modes of perception. Just as mathematicians map one geometry onto another to solve complex equations, our minds may one day map a new cognitive terrain, a post-symbolic space where meaning is not carved into discrete symbols, but experienced as dynamic flow. Until then, we remain bound, not by time itself, but by the structure of how we think about time. Chapter 7. The Evolution of Maps and Minds. If the third circuit allows us to create maps of meaning, then evolution, both personal and collective, depends on how often and how well we update those maps. Every scientific discovery, spiritual awakening, or artistic revolution in history was the result of someone challenging an inherited semantic structure. Someone dared to say, maybe this isn't what we thought it was. And in that moment, the map shifted. This is not just philosophy, it's how consciousness evolves. Language changes, definitions morph, symbols are reclaimed or rejected, and through it all, the collective map of ISness, our reality tunnel, becomes more complex, more subtle, more integrated. The time-binding circuit allows us to pass forward not only facts, but frameworks. Each generation can build upon the last, not just biologically, but symbolically. Raw described this process as a kind of upward spiral, information, ideas, and maps recombining to create higher-order awareness, but the spiral is fragile. It can be interrupted. Systems of power have always understood that to control the future, one must control the maps. Censorship, propaganda, dogma, these are all attempts to fossilize the third circuit, to freeze the semantic structure in place so that it cannot evolve. But now, in the age of digital communication and networked intelligence, the spiral is accelerating. We are sharing more maps more quickly than ever before. We are no longer limited to our local culture's definitions of what is true, good, or possible. We can peer into thousands of reality tunnels and begin to build new ones from their pieces. This moment in time is a test of the third circuit. Can we integrate complexity? Can we tolerate ambiguity? Can we evolve our symbols fast enough to match our expanding awareness? The third mind, the emergent intelligence Burroughs and Gysin spoke of, is not science fiction. It's already here. It's the collective synthesis of every interaction, every shared model, every evolved idea. It's the mind between minds. And it's growing. You are a time binder. You are not just a thinker. You are not just a product of your culture or your past. You are a time binder, a signal in a chain that stretches backwards to the dawn of language and forward into futures we cannot yet imagine. You are the sum of every map passed down to you, and the starting point for new ones. The question is not whether you're shaping reality. The question is, are you doing it consciously? Are you creating your own maps? Are you questioning the semantic structures that define your world? Or are you simply running inherited code, programs written by others long ago, whose maps no longer fit the terrain? You are a receiver of ancient messages, and a transmitter of new ones. Every thought you dare to think, every word you choose to share, every idea you shape and express, is a ripple through time, and someone, somewhere, will receive it. The third circuit is not just a function of the brain, it is a sacred power. The power to describe reality, and therefore, the power to transform it. So map boldly, speak clearly, think dangerously, because the future is listening.